everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Courtney. Today I have headed into the hardware store and to Dollar Tree to pick up some wood items. I'll be sharing some wood hacks with you. We'll be making some DIYs. Thank you to Essential Stencils for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get started. Diving into this first project, I will be making over this sign that I picked up on clearance from Hobby Lobby. So one thing I do when I'm looking at just, cheap signs to add to my stash is I really try to find ones that are solid wood, because I feel like the easiest way to flip them is to start by sanding off the current design that you don't want. So normally what I do is I will use my Bosch orbital sander, and I start with a 220 grit sandpaper, and that usually does the job. Now, if I can tell it's got layers and layers of paint, I will drop down to a 120, possibly even an 80, but for the most part, the 220 works great. Now for this particular sign, I am going to go back in with some whitish creamy paint, so I'm not worried about taking all the white paint off, just mostly the little flowered barn. And here is how the sign was looking after I hit it with my sander. Then I grabbed some Waverly white chalk paint, took one of my paintbrushes, and just went in and started to distress paint it, I guess you could say, until I got it looking exactly how I wanted. Now, for this sign, I am making it for my daughter, which makes this a very special project. I'm going to be grabbing out the Congrats Grad stencil out of this 3-pack of stencils from Essential Stencils. You guys know I've worked with them in the past. I was so excited when they wanted to work with me again, because I don't know what it is about stencils, but I feel like sometimes I just feel craftier when I use actual stencils. I guess because you're going through the whole painting process. But with any stencil, I'm going to tape it down, grab out my paint. So my daughter's colors are pink, sage green, and gold for her party. It's a tea party theme. And I'm going to use my stencil brush and make sure that I do a dabbing motion up and down to make sure that that paint doesn't bleed. And then wait till you see what I do with some transfers to make this even more customized. Yes, that's right. Adding transfers to wood, and it's so easy. This next part of the project, I honestly made this sign around these transfers. So if you'll remember in the last Essential Stencils partnership I did, they had these really cute bunny transfers. Y'all, their transfers are amazing. Like, I will go ahead and call it like by far my most favorite transfers that I have worked with as a crafter, and they're so easy to use. So essentially all you do is, you pull off the little clear paper, set them down, and then what I do is I usually take my little scraper and I kind of work from the middle out to the edges and just go around, all the way around till I kind of smooth that out. And then I just go around the edges one time just to kind of hit it, and that's it. I pull the thing up. I mean, a lot of transfers, I find that sometimes they'll fade or they're just not very vibrant, but y'all, seriously, I am absolutely loving this transfer. So everything in today's video will be linked down below in the description box. There's a coupon code for 10% off your order, or if you want to get the bundle that I'm working with today, it's 30% off. So just check the description box. So I kind of just went through, picked out the flowers I wanted, and then I applied them all, and that's it. This sign was finished, but I was so excited to make a custom sign that fit my daughter's graduation party. I just love how it turned out. For this next hack, I'm going to show you how to make your wood projects food safe. So I grabbed these 2 wood pieces that were actually pretty smooth. So all I needed to do was use 220 and 320 grit. I recommend you take several different grits of sandpaper when you're working with wood, especially if you're going to put food on it. Now for the dowel rod, this is a 36-inch long dowel rod that I picked up from Hobby Lobby, and I cut it in half. It was a 1/2-inch dowel rod, and that made each piece 18 inches. And then again, I took it outside and I sanded it with 220 grit and then 320 grit sandpaper to make sure that it was really good and smooth. Now for the next part, I am going to be using my drill. Now I didn't actually have the right size drill bit. I just took the largest one that I had in my set because honestly, I didn't know where my husband's drill bits were and I wanted to get this project done. So I did drill all the way through both of these pieces. And then you'll see that the hole is small. You'll see that the wood is roughed up. So you're going to need to sand it again before you go into the next step of adding the drill bit. But before we do that, look at me. I just kind of did the cheater method to make the hole bigger, and that was just taking my drill and going with my hand around in circles to make it bigger. Now, I only did this about halfway into the base because I knew that I would be able to screw in my dowel rod. Now, right here, I'm vacuuming up all these little wood shavings. You're going to need those again. Another hack's coming your way. So like I said, I drilled about halfway into the base, and I was able to just very easily and very snugly just twist my dowel rods into the base. So that worked out great. On the bottom side, now you've got a little bit of a gap, and we want to make sure that that dowel rod stays secure. You'll notice that I didn't put any wood glue in there before I did the dowel rod because, again, I am doing everything I can to keep this extremely food safe. Now, here's where you need that sawdust from your little ladybug vacuum. You want to, instead of just filling the hole with wood glue, wood putty, whatever, I like to take a little bit of wood glue, sprinkle in some sawdust, mix it up, a little bit of wood glue, and what happens is that just it all kind of expands and really fills that hole and makes it nice and secure. So that is exactly what I did to fill the rest of that hole on the bottom. And then after it dried, I just sanded the bottom really, really smooth. And here is the product. I know I've shared it before. This is what I like to use, the Howard Butcher Block Conditioner, to seal my wood projects. Super easy to use. So for a piece of wood that has never been sealed, the best way to do it is to heat this up. I actually just stick this in the microwave for 10 seconds, pull it out, shake it, do 10 more seconds, and then apply it. You want to make sure that you apply it with a lint-free cloth and that you rub with the wood grain and let it dry. I let mine dry about 24 hours between coats, and I typically do anywhere from 3 to 5 coats depending on what type of wood it is. But you want to make sure you just get it nice and sealed, and you'll be able to tell once it's cured. It kind of has a little bit of a sheen to it. Let's go get some donuts.
Just wanna make you smile. Hold your hand in my hand, looking at the sunset. Man, you're looking good tonight. I wanna kiss you before the sun goes down. It's what you're doing, making me feel like I'm falling. And when you're moving, I can hear my calling.
For this project, I'm going to show you how easy it is to make your own wooden sign. This is a 1x6 board, but remember the actual measurement is 1 by 5.5. So for this, I'm going to measure out 5.5 inches and then just take it out and cut it with my miter saw. If you don't have a miter saw, you can pick up one of these miter boxes and get it done just as easily. Then, of course, give it a very nice sanding. The other thing you will need to make the sign are the, frame pieces you want to use for your sign. So Dollar Tree, this was all stuff I had in my stash in there. It's all from Dollar Tree. So they had the skinnier ones, and they also have these blockier pieces. Of course, you could always pick up just one piece of trim from the hardware store and use that. I decided to go with these blockier pieces, and the way I decided to do my frame was to have the two sides at 5.5, and so that's where I cut them, and then the top piece and the bottom piece I cut them to be 6.5 inches long. I did sand those pieces down, and now I'm ready to stain them. I will say another perk to making your own wood sign is that you can do something like that, like stain your wood without having to get painter's tape and protect a sign that maybe you picked up some sign from, I don't know, Hobby Lobby, Goodwill, wherever. And if you want to paint it, you got to tape off and protect, the sign so you don't get stuff where you don't want it. This is just really nice because I can stain these pieces, I can paint my other piece of wood, and it just works out really, really well to be able to just do the whole project and then just quickly assemble it to get it finished. Now, while my trim pieces are drying, I just grabbed some flesh colored paint by Deco Art and some plaster paint by Waverly and just kind of mixed them together. And then I'm just going in and brushing it on there until I like how it looks. I wasn't going for full coverage, but I just painted that on there very quickly. I will be using a 6x6 stencil for the design. This is a pack from Essential Stencils. It's got all kind of flower themed stencils, which I absolutely love. And just like with any stencil, I'm going to take my stencil, use some painter's tape to secure it to my board. And then I wanted to try something different. I didn't want to use paint. I decided I wanted to try to use markers. Now, these are Arteza's Everblend markers. These are the ones you guys see me use all the time. And they're not their paint markers, but they're meant for blending, but they are acrylic. And so I wasn't quite sure if this was going to work, but I just went in, I traced the design with my markers, and when I pulled off the stencil, it worked. Like there was no bleeding or anything like that. Gold was the only color that I actually used a paint marker for, the center of the flowers. And yeah, I was very pleasantly surprised. So I just took those markers, filled in the design. It was kind of fun. It was just coloring, which was really awesome. Added a little heart to the envelope. And then I was ready to do my last step, which was to quickly assemble my sign. The last step is just to attach the wood pieces. You need to decide on your trim pieces how you want it to go. If, as you see here, I've got my envelope with the flowers and then I have the trim pieces pushed up against it. You could also take this your centerpiece that has your design and center it between the trim pieces, if you know what I'm talking about, where it'd have a little bit of frame on each side of the actual centerpiece. Up to you how you want it to look. I'm just using the Gorilla Glue, wood glue, some clamps. I'm going to let it dry for 24 hours and that's it. The sign is so easy to make and I love that it's just customizable. You can pretty much make it for any occasion and it doesn't take that long. For this next hack, it's going to be about making paint food safe on wood DIYs. So I've got this really cute 6-pack of mini fruit pun stencils. This is a great pack if you like to make summer DIYs. And I decided to use the strawberry stencil out of this pack. Now, before I go into the whole food safe paint thing, I wanted to see if using a stencil and torch paste would work because you guys know I love to use torch paste. So I taped down my stencil. I applied the torch paste. I knew right off that the torch paste was going to be a little bit thicker on this just because the stencil material is thicker than your typical vinyl stencil. And when I started to burn it, I will say because the torch paste was thicker, it started to bubble up a little bit just because that top layer of the torch paste wasn't adhered to any wood. So it starts to bubble up. It looks a little freaky, I'm not gonna lie, while you're doing it. But in the end, it burned the wood. So can you use a stencil with torch paste? Yes, you can. I think it's just a personal preference of what type of stencils you like, but you definitely can. Now moving on to using paint and letting it touch food. Let's talk about that. I flipped over my board and just reapplied my stencil by taping it down, and let's talk about, okay, how do I make paint food safe? So first thing to make sure you know is that just because it says it's non-toxic paint doesn't mean that it is food safe. There are paints out there that say they are food safe in the sense that if food accidentally touches it, not like sits on it for a while, but accidentally touches it, that food item is still fine. But even that, it's saying you still have to seal over the paint. So honestly, this is something that I kind of just continuously in my free time, I'm trying to research because I really would like to find the good paints. And that, of course, I will share that information with you when I feel like I've done a really good job researching it. But they do say that Deco Art is one of the paints that is food safe in accidental contact, I think is what they call it. I can't remember the terminology, but something like that. So that's what I'm using. I'm going to go in and paint with my stencil, just covering up areas with the tape that I don't want, colors to get on. And then once it's dry, I let the paint dry really, really good. I let it sit for 24 hours. I went back in with that butcher block sealer and sealed it. Now this is just going to be a cute little serving tray, so that's why I just went ahead with the Deco Art paint. But like I said, as soon as I've done my due diligence and I've done a ton of research on it, I will definitely share my findings with you.
Falling in love. You set my wheels in motion. I'm going crazy for you.
And that wraps up another round of DIYs. Let me know down below which one of these projects was your favorite. Also, let me know what is your favorite DIY that you have made out of wood to this point. I would love to kind of see the variety of projects that have been made. And if you don't follow me on Instagram, I shared some behind the scenes about this video. So if you see some weird emojis in the comments, it has to do with that. I would love to have you follow me over there because there's a lot more fun and games over there. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Here are some more videos you might enjoy, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.
Like the ocean.